everyone, so today I wanted to do a video. It's kind of like makeup must-haves when starting out with makeup. I want to talk a little bit about, in my personal opinion, the items that I believe you do need to spend money on and the items that you do not need to spend money on when you're first starting out with makeup and kind of you want to build your little collection. So I'm just going to say, just for kind of the purpose of this video, this is going to be our makeup bag and we are going to fill this with items that you can use in your everyday makeup routine. Okay, so we're gonna go and get started. Okay, now starting off with the first thing for me is going to be a face primer. Now this is the one from Makeupforever. It's the all matte makeup primer and it's going to keep your makeup on all day. It's going to keep it from sliding off your face, it's going to keep it from oxidizing or changing colors, and it's just going to keep the texture of your face very smooth and very matte throughout the day. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering if a face primer is an essential and if you really need a face primer. In my personal opinion, I think the most things you want to spend money on are going to be face products, and that's because when your skin looks really, really nice, you're not going to have to use a lot of other makeup. So if you do have a problem with oil or you find that your face makeup is coming off, throughout the day, through school, I would invest in a face primer. I think you can really tell the difference and you really will be able to kind of see what it does and see that it really helps out with the long lastingness of your face makeup. Now, if you are unsure of one to try, my personal favorites are ones that are clear and don't have any color to them, but Makeupforever also carries a line of them that are specifically for people who have different types of skin. They have one for green to counteract redness. I think they have one for like aging that has a little bit of like shimmer in it to kind of make your face look a little bit more youthful, and they just have a bunch of different ones. Now, I would recommend you invest in one if you do have a problem with your face makeup throughout the day. And also, if you are kind of confused on which one you want to try, at Sephora they have a bunch of samples and you can get samples of different face primers. There's one from Nars that I've had a sample from, and there's one from L'Oreal, and both of those you can get the samples at Sephora and you can try them out, see if you see a difference, and then if you do, definitely go ahead and invest in a good face primer. Next would be foundation. Now for me, this is kind of a hit or miss on something you need to spend money on. This is kind of something that it's your own personal preference more. For me, I like spending money on my foundation because I feel like it's going to work better with my primer if it's the same brand because they're formulated to go together. So I just use the HD Makeupforever, and this is the high definition foundation. And I like this one because I feel like it works really well with the primer. Now, if you have a really good foundation that you use already, then you don't need to spend money on one. And as far as powders, I think powders are pretty universal. I don't think you need to spend money on a matte powder if you don't want to. But if you do, they definitely are great. But I think there are a lot of drugstore options for powder that are basically the same. On to bronzer. I think bronzer, actually, it really depends, but I would say that for the most part you're going to be fine using a lower end bronzer. One of my favorites is the Physicans Formula, and it's in a little round circle one. It has like a sun on the top. That's a really nice bronzer. It's matte. It has a little bit of shimmer on one side though, and it's just a really great bronzer, and I definitely would recommend that to you for starting out your makeup collection. The things that I think are necessary to purchase from the high end would be a face primer if needed and a foundation if needed. And the other things, as far as a powder and a bronzer, I think you can go to drugstore for those too. Something that not everyone uses, but a highlighter illuminator type thing, I think you are definitely well off getting one from the drugstore. This is my favorite one, and this is the Revlon Age Defying Face Illuminator, and this is an age defying one, but I really like it still, and it just comes out like this. It's a little bit messy, but it's a great kind of liquid illuminator, and I think you don't need to buy a higher end version. Now for eye primer, and this is the dreaded eye primer that some people like to skip, and I would say this is probably one of the most important things in your makeup look if you do wear eyeshadow. Now this is something you are going to need to invest in, and I know it seems dumb, and when I first started out with makeup I didn't want to because I thought it was like a waste of money and a waste of a step, but this creates such a difference. And you can also get these at Sephora, if you buy a palette from Sephora, they sometimes come with a mini sample size of this, and you can try it out and see if you like it. But I know you guys will love it. And this is, you know, it's something that you wouldn't, it's not really a fun purchase, but it definitely is something that you need. And I would say something to spend money on would be a very good eye primer base. As far as eyeshadow, I have to say that yes, I do think eyeshadow is something you also need to invest in. A thing you can do if you don't want to buy MAC shadows is a really cool thing is you can buy a quad like this and you can fill it with 4 different eyeshadows. And I really like that because you can get your 4 colors that you wear every day, have them in here, and then, you know, take this with you wherever you go. Now, eyeshadows, I would say the differences are just pigmentation. You know, a drugstore eyeshadow, a lot of times the pigmentation just isn't there at all. And, you know, you can really tell the difference in a higher-end drugstore, in a higher-end eyeshadow than in a drugstore one. Them are somewhat similar to the drugstore eyeshadows that are now selling. I think some palettes from Maybelline and stuff go for like $8, $9, and if you want to get a $14 MAC eyeshadow, you know, it's pretty similar in price, but the color payoff and the long-lastingness is just out of the park and not comparable. So I would say definitely something you need to invest in are good eyeshadows. Now on to eyeliners. I use liquid liner, and I think pencil liner you do not need to invest in. I've tried the Urban Decay, the little Urban Decay one that everyone talks about. It's great, but you know, I don't see anything different from that and one of my Rimmel London eye kohls. I don't see any difference between that and some of my Smashbox liners. I just think pencil eyeliner is something you can get at the drugstore for sure. Also with liquid liner, I think liquid liner can be from the drugstore as well. One of my favorite ones is the Milani Eye Liquify, and that's my favorite. My second favorite is this Milani one, and this, or not Milani, this Almay liquid liner, and this is a very nice liquid liner too. So you do not need to spend money on eyeliners. I think you can find comparable ones at the drugstore. To mascara, I think it's really a personal preference, but I'm going to say you'll be fine using a drugstore mascara. They're really basically the same, so you'll be fine there. Okay, as far as lip glosses and lipsticks from the drugstore, I'm a lip product junkie, so I do buy high-end ones, but I have a lot of ones from the drugstore that I think are just as good. Some of my favorite ones are from the Revlon line. I really like the Revlon lipsticks, and as far as high-end, I love MAC lipsticks. I think they're really nice, but you know, it's kind of a hit or miss for you. A lot of them sell for around $7 to $8, and then the MAC ones are $14.50. So, you know, it's kind of a personal preference, but I definitely think that you are fine using drugstore lip products. So that was my little kind of showing you what I think is worth the money and what isn't. Basically, I'm going to go ahead run you through it again. I think you need a good face primer if you need one, if you have a problem with your face makeup. I think you need to spend money on a good foundation if you have problems covering, you know, blemishes and stuff, if like the drugstore ones don't work for you. But if they don't, then that doesn't apply to you. I also think you need to spend money on a primer, an eye primer, and that's really going to help your eyeshadows. I promise it will. And the next thing I think you need to spend money on are eyeshadows, because the pigmentation is there and you can see the difference in quality. So those 4 items I do think need to be purchased from high-end stores. And the things that I don't need to be purchased from high-end stores would be a powder, a foundation if you have one that works well for you, eyeliners, mascara, any type of lip products, and blush can be all from the drugstore. So I hope this helped you guys, and I hope this kind of opened your eyes towards that not everything needs to be high-end, and there are some great drugstore products out there. You know, feel free to tell me what your favorite drugstore products are. I would love to hear them, and I hope this helped a little bit.